What's up, dogs? It's Nyctopluvo, and we've known about Luigi's Mansion 3 for about a month now, I would say. And I think it's safe to say that all of us have, a couple expectations for the game, because the original Luigi's Mansion and Dark Moon were very different games, both good in their own right, but going from 1 to Dark Moon, we saw that there were some differences and things that were really good in 1 that they didn't put into Dark Moon. Then Dark Moon also had a couple things that were really cool about it as well, and I think Luigi's Mansion 3 is a perfect way to combine the good of Luigi's Mansion 1 and the good of Dark Moon, so we end up getting a really, really cool game. And I just wanted to talk about my expectations for the game, my wish list rather, of things I'd like to see in Luigi's Mansion 3. First things first, I think we can all agree that Luigi's Mansion 3 needs to be more exploration focused than level focused like Dark Moon was. And that was kind of the biggest problem with Dark Moon for me personally, is just the fact that you wanted to keep running around the little mansions in the game and keep exploring them, but you kept getting stopped. And you'd get to you do your objective, and then EGAD would pull you back and then give you your next mission objective, and then you go back in, and it really killed the pacing of the game to keep leaving the mansion and coming back. And then that also brings me to my another smaller point I had, which was the game needs to not hold your hand as much, because another thing I'd noticed going back to play Dark Moon is that you get stopped so often by EGAD calling you to tell you literally anything and everything about the game, and I'm sure it's real helpful the first time you play the game, but the second, third, fourth, however many times you play the game, it's super obnoxious. Yeah, sure, you can skip the little dialogue and stuff real easily, but it's the fact that it stops you for just a moment to run you through that dialogue. I think it would be okay if the game had that the first time you played, maybe, or the first time you play and then the second time you play you get the option to turn it off, or just the option to turn it off entirely, because it's super obnoxious to go back knowing how the game works, and then the game keeps telling you oh, do this to do this, and it's yeah, I fucking know, thank you so much for letting me know. I think we also need to have it be one location and not multiple locations like Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, because I feel the fact that there were multiple locations just made it, gave the game more variety, but I don't feel we needed all that variety. We could have got a bunch of different cool rooms in one big mansion like we did with Luigi's Mansion 1. And to be quite honest with you, besides the first mansion in Dark Moon, the Gloomy Manor, I don't really remember much of what the other mansions were like. I remember there was gimmicks, one was ice one, and I think one was an old western rail related thing, and I think there was one that was a plant greenhouse thing. But other than that very first mansion that was kind of I think the first mansion in that game was supposed to be kind of reminiscent of the original Luigi's Mansion, just a little bit, and that one I felt was the most memorable. And then every other mansion after that, I mean they were all right, but I didn't feel they were super memorable. And I'm pretty sure we will get some of that as well, because from what we can see from the Luigi's Mansion 3 trailer, it looks like we're just going to be in one giant hotel. And that brings me to my next point. I think this next game needs to be really big, and I think we will get that if it's going to be a giant hotel. I'm just hoping that every single room has something cool and unique, and if they're doing a whole hotel, there's gonna be so many different rooms they could do. And I mean sure, it might get a little bit mundane, because most hotel rooms typically tend to be the same, but I mean, if we're gonna do a whole hotel, I think that gives us a lot of room to make the game as big as possible. I think it's also important that with this game we get some more like secret rooms, because those were always like really cool in the original Luigi's Mansion. There's only like 2, but like the fact that they were in the game was super cool. Like there was the one where you had to like jump through the chimney to get into the blocked off room, but then more importantly, there was this one room where you could go the whole game without even going into this room, and you had to like take a picture of a mouse hole and it would suck you into this room that had no doorways, so that was like the only way in. And I feel like in Luigi's Mansion 3 it'd be really cool if we got like, you know, multiple different rooms where you had to like do something special to get in them, like rooms where there aren't really necessarily a door to get in and you just have to like find a puzzle to get into that room. In Luigi's Mansion 1, there were all these like elemental attacks. There was like fire, water, and ice. And like they had like these cool puzzles tied into them that you would like solve using, you know, one of the following like elements. And then like in Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, they just got rid of them entirely. And I'm not sure why, but I feel like we need to get those back because there were some very interesting puzzles associated with them. My last couple points here before we wrap up would be about the ghost. Now, as much as I loved Luigi's Mansion and the ghost in it, I have to give it to Dark Moon because the ghost in that game had this more comedic nature and it made the game more playful and fun. And in Luigi's Mansion 3, I think we're probably going to get that based on the trailer because like we see like the one ghost like trying to like trip Luigi by like shaking the rug, and like, you know, it's the Luigi's Mansion 1 ghosts are really cool, but I think we need the ghosts that are more like the Dark Moon ghost. But with that said, I think that we need to bring the POLTERATE ghosts back because that was one of the biggest issues with Dark Moon. Like the ghosts themselves were really cool. They had cool designs. They had like this comedic nature that was really cool. But like once you saw like every single type of ghost, I think there was like maybe 5 of them. That was like it. There wasn't any special like cool POLTERATE ghost or boss ghost. Like there was this one part in Dark Moon with like 3 lady ghosts, but they weren't necessarily like the POLTERATE ghosts. And like that was one of the biggest parts about Luigi's Mansion 1 is like you'd go into a room and there'd be this big old POLTERATE ghost and you had to figure out how to capture them like through like small puzzles and stuff. And there would be like so much opportunity in like Luigi's Mansion 3 to have like even more POLTERATE ghosts, because like as I said, you know, it looks like we're going to be playing in a hotel, and you know, with that said, there's going to be like so many different rooms, which leads to so many different like people, you know, POLTERATE ghosts to have in this hotel. And if they don't do this, I'm pretty sure this game will get like really bad ratings, because you know that was everybody's biggest complaint. Like one of the 2 biggest complaints with Dark Moon was, you know, the exploration and the lack of POLTERATE ghosts. So if they don't do POLTERATE ghosts, I'm not saying like the game will be bad per se, but you know, I just think Nintendo's better than that. I feel like they should have learned the fact that like that was one of the biggest issues with Dark Moon. So I think we need that in Luigi's Mansion 3. So yeah guys, I'm really looking forward to Luigi's Mansion 3. You know, comment down below what are some things you'd like to see in Luigi's Mansion 3. I'm very curious to see what you guys think should be added into the game, or you know, taken from like Dark Moon or Luigi's Mansion 1 and brought into Luigi's Mansion 3. I think it would be really cool, since this game is taking place in a hotel, if they did like a Shining reference. I doubt they would, but I think it would be cool. And you know, like another minor thing I didn't want to talk in detail about, but I mean, I wouldn't mind if they brought the multiplayer back. You know, it wasn't like the best part of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, but it was cool that they had it. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!